is a community. To a pilot, it is a cluster of buildings seen as the birds see them. To the locomotive engineer, it is another stop on the line. He knows it only as a station, a name on his schedule. To city planners, a community means an area on a map where everything is laid out in orderly geometric patterns. To the garbage man, it just means rubbish and more rubbish. To the mailman, a community means much more than all these. It means familiar houses with well-known numbers on them, and it means the people who live inside those houses. This, for instance, is the home of the Carters. He pauses to exchange a few friendly words with Mrs. Carter, whom he has come to know through their daily meetings at the front door. The Carter family is typical of this community, not rich, not poor. Mr. Carter is a young lawyer. His wife runs the household, but also finds time for many activities outside the home. This morning's mail brings her something in which she is particularly interested, a sample balloting sheet listing candidates in the forthcoming local elections. The Carters are both active in civic affairs. With two lively children, Mrs. Carter herself sometimes wonders how she finds time for her outside work. Meanwhile, the mailman continues his route, which takes him into the shopping district. Here, too, he has friends, including the grocer who came to America 20 years ago and is now as much a part of the community as his customers. Mrs. Brown, wife of a real estate dealer, has a busy day ahead, and so she is doing her shopping early. The local dentist picks up his mail on the way to his office, where even at this hour, patients wait for him. A visit to the dentist is no fun, but he and his secretary make it as pleasant as possible. He takes out people's teeth, yet they like him in spite of it. Mrs. Gates has come along to keep up her son's courage. She's a widow with 3 children, but she also finds time to take an active part in community life. The morning mail is important to the old folks of the town, too. A letter from a son in the big city, perhaps. A note from an old friend. They brighten the days spent in quiet retirement. Age and youth, the postman serves them all. The local high school is his next stop. Behind these windows, the students, though, are too occupied with their studies to think about mail. There's Mary Collins, for instance. Someday she'll be a wife and mother, and she'll be a better one because of the broad education she is now receiving. Though the town is a small one, like thousands of others that will never get into the headlines, important things happen here, too. At least the people who live in the town think so, and they are right. This is a special day. Elections are being held, and the people are taking their place in line to vote. Election of officials who will run the local government and the schools is a serious matter for Mrs. Carter and her friends. Everybody has a stake in the election. The actual casting of the vote is an end result, not a spur-of-the-moment action. For months before Election Day, Mrs. Carter and her woman neighbors have worked as members of the League of Women Voters. They believe that to get the most out of their government, they must understand it and work to improve it. Most of the members are mothers, too. To solve this problem, they took turns at each meeting watching over the children while the other mothers devoted themselves to making a better town for the youngsters to live and grow up in. As Election Day approached, the women acquainted themselves with all the candidates, who they were, what they stood for, their records. As a matter of fact, these women belong to several opposing political parties and will vote for different candidates. They were working here with one objective, to see that the people in the community, whatever their party, might know what the elections would mean to them and vote accordingly. In these weeks before the election, members volunteered their services to distribute leaflets and other information about the election to their neighbors. It wasn't always an easy job, for some people closed the door on knowledge. But the work went on, with the Voters League members reaching more and more people, calling attention to the importance of the issues in the coming election. The officers of the League found tasks for all who offered to help. Another way of reaching the voters was by making lists and talking to them directly on the telephone. Each year, more women listen and become interested, and thereby become better citizens. It was a long, tedious job, and there was no pay for making phone call after phone call, hour after hour. But the women found it worthwhile because it led to a more satisfactory community life. Since in a democracy there are several candidates for every office and not just one party, the club women made sure to weigh the policies and objectives of the opposing candidates. Candidates from all parties were invited to come and speak to present the points in favor of their own election. Thus, the women could see and hear the people they would vote for and draw their own conclusions as to their fitness. Opposing candidates presented the other side of the case. Each candidate was assured a courteous hearing of what he had to say. "Here is what I stand for," he said. "It is up to you, the voters, to decide whether I should be elected or not." When Election Day does come, women like Mrs. Brown understand the issues thoroughly as they take their place in the voting line. They have accepted their political responsibilities, and they've taken full advantage of the privileges of citizenship. But voting and the direct political activity it entails is not the complete picture of the woman citizen. As she waits to cast her ballot, Mrs. Brown presents another side of the woman interested in her community as such. She belongs to the Parent Teachers Association, which is an important element of community advancement. They have been planning a new recreation center for the teenaged young people of the town. What Mrs. Brown and her friends have been working for is a place where boys and girls can enjoy themselves in wholesome surroundings. Funds to accomplish projects like this are raised through subscriptions and benefit functions. Before long, these simple floor plan sketches come to life, and another hard-won community project is a reality. In this town, as in so many others, the old-fashioned square dances are popular with the youngsters. Social gatherings like this are an established weapon against juvenile delinquency. Mrs. Brown and the parent teachers have made other plans come true also. Moving pictures that teach the children the facts of birth and growth are regular features of school life here. Such motion pictures are provided by the Board of Education. Community well-being stems from the well-being of the individual. Healthy scholars need healthy food, and the women of the PTA have made this possible too. The school now has a fully equipped lunchroom where hot food is served to all pupils at a nominal charge. For the poorer children, there's no charge at all. The money to pay for these meals comes partly from local school tax funds and partly from the federal government. Twice a year, the dentist visits the school and checks up on the children's teeth. This service, initiated by the PTA, is also made possible by grant of federal funds. No, Mrs. Brown may not think of herself as a political force, but she is an effective force for good in her community, perhaps because she thinks of all children as her children and of her problems as everyone's problems. The local hospital provides an opportunity for women who have no children of their own to help the children of others. Miss Mayer, the dentist's receptionist, finds pleasure and a sense of participation in community life by teaching drawing and crafts to youngsters while they're convalescing. Perhaps the children don't learn very much about drawing, but Miss Mayer has brought some pleasure into their lives at a difficult time, and in her own way has done her share toward making life in her town richer and pleasanter. Mrs. Gates, the widowed mother, belongs to the Women's Lecture Society, and she takes pride in its work to enrich the life of the community. In most American towns, women's organizations are instrumental in bringing the best artistic talent of the nation to local audiences. Women like Mrs. Gates arrange the programs and see to it that everything runs smoothly. But for Mrs. Gates and her friends, concerts like these mean more than just an agreeable cultural evening. The money raised by tonight's concert has a community purpose of lasting worth. It will be used to buy new hospital equipment. Working together, that's the secret of community living that the children here learn early. Our friend Mary Collins sets to work, and though she may not realize it, she is learning another lesson in community spirit, a lesson she will be able to apply throughout her life as an active citizen. They've been told that they can have a new playground here if they clean it up and fix it themselves. It's hard work, but when it's done together for the common good, it's more fun than drudgery. Although sometimes Mary is not so sure. Mary Collins probably isn't thinking much of the future as she rides through the familiar town she knows so well. But before long, she will be a wife, a mother, a full-fledged citizen. She will be taking her place in the Voters League and in the voting line. She will be discovering the many ways in which she can belong to the community in which she lives. She and women like her will be helping the poor by running a rummage shop, perhaps, taking unwanted but useful goods and making them available to those who need them. She may belong to a garden club, working to beautify her town with things that grow and blossom. She may help the Girl Scouts and become a guide and companion for a new generation. She she may one day participate more fully in the religious life of her community. Or she may volunteer to give her own blood, which doctors will use to save the life of a friend or a stranger. Whatever she does, as an interested and intelligent American woman, she will become part of the bloodstream of her community. As a woman citizen, she will unfailingly exercise her franchise at the polling booths. Her name will be registered in the municipal books, along with those of her friends and neighbors, as a responsible and privileged member of the society she helps create and maintain. And the climax of her civic career will come in the curtained privacy of the voting machine. There, where none can influence her, she will register her will as a self-governing citizen, accepting proudly the responsibility which the community has placed upon her.